Hello and welcome to Beyond the Plate with Carol, where we will explore food and a little beyond. So come along with me on this journey and see what we uncover. Welcome to Beyond the Plate with Carol at the studio at the Beacon at 814 Elm Street, right in downtown Manchester. We are also proudly sponsored by the Red Arrow Diner, open 24/7 at all 4 locations across New Hampshire. And I'm really excited about my next guest. We haven't seen each other really for a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
We kind of chat a little bit here and there, maybe a little bit more me with your wife, but Kristine is here too. So welcome Kevin Cornish and Kristine.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so exciting. So Kevin Cornish is owner of 2 places, Casey's Rib Shack, famous barbecue place over on 2nd Street, 837 2nd Street. You can check them out on the web at ribshack.net. And then most recently, which we'll get to, Rock N Roll Meatballs. And over on Elm Street, that's at 179 Elm Street. What an amazing place. I mean, but let's first start. How did you get in the restaurant business? Were you always in it? Were you?
No, I was actually had gone to college for graphic arts and had a printing company here in Manchester called Granite State Printing. And the whole industry of printing was changing. It was moving into the digital age from the little A.B. Dick presses, and they're just still there, but more and more things were being done on copy machines, and you either had to make that jump from the analog press to the digital world, and the whole, a lot more people with I think computers coming out, more people were doing their own graphic arts at home and things like that. And I just felt as though the industry was changing. And at the time, my hobby was cooking barbecue with my partner, Greg, who owned an auto parts store. And so neither of us had ever worked a day in a restaurant. And we both found ourselves at kind of a Y in the road where I had just recently sold my share of the printing company to my partner, and Greg's auto parts. He was feeling the pressure from these new ADAPs and auto palaces and whatever that were coming in. And, he could find that it was cheaper to go buy auto parts at these competitors than it was for him to buy them wholesale at
Not awful.
So he kind of got pushed out of his little mom and pop auto parts store. And so I remember saying to him, we used to hang out all the time, and, on the weekends would cook barbecue and ribs until 3:00 in the morning. It would usually be an idea at like 8:00. Let's make ribs
and
tonight.
Of course, when you're smoking things on a smoker, it takes time.
Yeah. So, it takes, at the time I was cooking at like a lower temperature than I do now, like 210. So ribs would take 6 hours, so it was many times 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by the time we're pulling the ribs off. But it was what we kind of did on the weekends. And so I came up with this idea that I was going to start this barbecue mail order business of selling barbecue sauces and rubs and things like that. The more I looked into that and studied it, I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to, survive like this. So I actually, I spoke with my friend, Brian Michael, who owns Spectrum Monthly. And this is back, 30 years ago, basically. And he said, I'll go in with you, I'll give you the money for it and all this. And so I said, okay, great. And I found a little place on Page Street that I was going to open up as this kind of little takeout barbecue joint. And I think it was the day before we were going to sign the lease. He called me up and said, listen, I just found out that my wife is pregnant. I'm having my first baby girl. I can't roll the dice. I gotta bail out,
She'll kill me.
So that's when I kind of turned to Greg and I said, let's, he's
pull the plug. Let's do it.
Let's open this barbecue joint. He's like, Kevin, I'll do anything. Let's not open a restaurant. Yeah. Everybody's told you the one of the least successful businesses out there is the restaurant business, and you look at the odds they're pretty much against you, but I think the fact that we had no freaking clue what we were doing helped us, because we didn't have any preconceived ways of doing things. And that property fell through in Manchester, and I ended up finding this little hole in the wall in Litchfield, which was a Chinese food restaurant. And it had this Chinese rib oven in it. They used to cook the Chinese spare ribs and things in it, and which never really had wood or anything like that. It was just cooked with gas. And back in the day, we used to actually take a pot with wood chunks in it and would get it burning on the stove, and then would stick it in this oven, and try and make smoke, And a few months later, my mom actually lent me $20,000 to go and buy my first real smoker,
Cool.
And that was in Litchfield, and I think we had been open for maybe a month or two. And I remember pulling into the parking lot that morning, and there's just freaking cars everywhere. And I'm like, what are all these cars here, And went into the restaurant. It was an hour or two before we opened, and my mom called me up, and she said, "Did you see the union leader yet?" And I said, "No." And there used to be this, I forget what it was called, our chef or something like that. There was somebody in the union leader that would
maybe John Clayton's Monday column.
No, I forget what it was, but it was
Our Gourmet.
Our Gourmet. Yeah,
that's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, and they used to have like their last 10 reviews, and then they would do their big review of the week, and they'd kind of list the last 10. Well, they had come to us, and we just blew them away. It was just this amazing article, and it really changed our whole trajectory, because
now you're like, I think we can do this.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, the amount of people that came in from that. And the funny thing is that the review was, I forget what we got 4.5, 5 stars on everything. And it blew away like the last 10. There were all these kind of gourmet-ish restaurants, and people that I looked up to as, chefs, and here we were just putting, doing meat over fire and keeping it as it was a simple. Back then, we didn't have anything else other than, like, now we have a full menu of salads and hamburgers and hot dogs and all this. And back then we had ribs, chicken, pulled pork, and sausage, I think. We didn't even have brisket back then, and a few sides. And so that was the catalyst that kind of really got us rolling. And then we had about a year and a half after that, we had a fire out there that kind of started when in our smoker, there was a makeshift smoker, and the grease in it caught fire. And it didn't do a lot of physical damage, but there was a lot of smoke damage. And I think 4 or 5 months had gone by, and we were still waiting for the insurance inspector to show up and things like that. And in the meantime, I said, we should start looking for a new home. And so that's when we found the home in Manchester on 2nd Street. It was a perfect situation for us. It was where the original Pizza Hut had opened up in 1967. And the building the Pizza Hut was out front, which wasn't, it was a Chinese food restaurant at the time, I think, or maybe it was vacant actually. And then out back was Pizza Hut headquarters, where they would load up all the trucks with cheese and dough and distribute it to all these other cheap Pizza Huts throughout New England. That the guy, my landlord, owned like 16 Pizza Huts in New England.
Our front lounge was the original.
Right. I didn't realize that. Okay.
It was a great situation for us because it allowed us to grow within the spot that we were in, because we took over the front area, and the back was this barn that was a gorgeous 300-year-old barn, but there was a clothing store back there or something like that. And as those business, a lot of places, when they go to expand, they have to move to a new location, and moving to a new location, sometimes you might lose your customer base. Sometimes they don't like the vibe of the new place. Maybe the place is too big. You have to jump to this, we're going to go from a 40-seat restaurant to a 200-seat restaurant, and it's too big of a leap. So it was great that we were able to kind of grow into the upper level of the barn and the lower level of the barn, and then take over the backyard. And
now you have like the whole thing.
Yeah, and I went. It's
like a compound.
And now we have the Pizza Hut up front is now our function hall. And I had gone to Key West about 10 years ago and overlooked, as I was staying at the Ocean Pier Resort, and my hotel room overlooked this just gorgeous tiki bar with all these different colored tables and everything. And
there goes the tiki bar.
I came home and I said, I want to build a tiki bar. And a couple weeks later, I was...
Gazebo would make a poop.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, the little gazebo in the backyard that people would smoke cigarettes in, you know, about its only use, you know. So I kind of converted, you know, the whole patio around the gazebo that was there and converted that into the tiki bar, which is so it's great that we were able to have all these different kind of theme rooms. We have a tavern, and then we have a lower room that's a dining room, and then we have our lounge out front, which we just kind of cut in half because my kitchen has always been so teeny there. And on a Saturday, we cater all over New England. You know, we can go to Vermont or, you know, Maine or Massachusetts. So it's chaos in there. And there's 8 people hovered around a table this size. You know, everybody's fighting for room. And if you gotta, you know, slice something, you gotta go get the slicer and put it out and plug it in. And so now we're expanding to this. Like half of that front lounge area is going to be a new kitchen, which we just blocked off, and we need to have the flooring and walls put in and things like that. But it's exciting, and the kitchen is.
And so that's happening now.
That's happening right now over at Casey's. Yeah,
really cool.
So that's been a long time coming, and we needed to figure out the biggest problem was the handicap accessibility. And I would have just kind of went with the barn out back as far as our dining areas, you know, but we needed to have a handicap accessible area. So, that's why we kind of kept half of the front lounge up front. So that's exciting over there.
You know, when you do things, you know, I've been there, seen the tiki bar open, the upstairs open, and when you do things, you do it right. I mean, that tiki bar is really just like you're in Key West. I mean, it really, really is. The colors and your creativity with the palettes and the big the tables. And so for someone, and then upstairs, all of your decorations you have hanging from the ceiling, and it's like crazy. It's like awesome. It's just amazing. So for someone, shame on them if they've never been, but if there's someone out there that's watching or listening, and if you've never been to Casey's, walk them through the front door and just kind of give us a little tour of what they might see when they come in. That's
kind of the one of the things I think is still great when I bump into people all the time that have never been there.
Isn't it crazy? And I know. Same thing with the diner. It's like, what?
Right,
like, come on.
You know, I've been there close to 30 years, you know,
right.
And we opened in 2000 in Manchester, but we opened in 98 in Litchfield. So yeah, after being out there in front of people for so long and so many forms of media, from television, we've been on Man vs. Food, and we've been on the Discovery Channel and the Food Channel and on the Food Network or what have you. And you kind of expect that people just have been there. And I think it's great that there's so many people that still haven't been there, because that's still untapped market.
Exactly. Right? Well, you know, some of the older ones are dying off. I mean, we say that at the diner all the time.
Sure.
The old timers are going, but then you get the new people, so it kind of like replenishes them. So
yeah, and I think we're super fortunate, and I'm very grateful for the unbelievable, you know, kind of patronage we have with our customers. We after 27 years to still be thriving is awesome. You know, it doesn't happen with a lot of.
That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. You know, earlier when you were talking about, you know, not wanting to open up a restaurant or wanting to and being crazy, you know, about it. I mean, Pat Mills, do you know Pat?
No,
Pat Mills from Bonfire?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
You need to know Pat.
Yeah. No,
he's such a nice guy.
Oh, I'd love to meet him.
He owns Bonfire. Yeah. So I interviewed him, and it was so funny because we're talking about how people have these dreams. You know, they come up to you and they say, I want to open a restaurant. And we're like, why? Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, why?
I'm always like, give me 30 minutes of your time.
Right?
You know?
Like, you know, are you ready for this? You know, you're going to become a banker. You're going to become a psychologist. You're going to become a social worker. But I guess we like it, right? I mean,
there's something that I think, draws us to it. And
totally.
I don't think that I could have been, I think a lot of people get into it and they fail after a couple of years because it's just overwhelming.
It's grueling.
It's nonstop. We're not open for lunch anymore, which works out great in the barbecue business, because it was always tough for us, unlike a lot of restaurants, be a diner where you're not cooking the eggs until people walk in the door, you know?
Right.
I mean, there might be some things that are pre-made or what have you, but for the most part, if you go into a Mexican restaurant, they're preparing your tacos right there, you know. They're cooking your pizza for you, or they're making your sub. But so between lunch and dinner, these places like a sub shop, they're just chopping vegetables and doing prep work or what have you. In the barbecue business, we would open up for lunch, and so we'd have to have a crew of 5 there because we have to have ribs, chicken, pulled pork, sausage. All these things take hours or all night to cook, as well as our mashed potatoes and our rice and all this thing. So it's essentially the kitchen is set up like almost like a big buffet, you know? So you can imagine like going to a buffet that nobody's touched for 4 hours. You know, it's you're going to be picking. You're like, I don't know about that, you know? So that was the problem is we would cook and we would have trays of ribs and trays of chicken and trays of pulled pork and trays of sausage. And then lunch would end. It's 1:00. And now we still
dinner. Yeah.
We still have trays and there's this 3 or 4 hour void in between. And what's happening with that food? If we're serving it, that's not good. You know, it's 4-hour-old chicken, you know, if we're throwing it out, that's not good. You know, so, and there's a lot of barbecue places now that do where we open and we sell out. Fortunately, it's becoming a little bit more acceptable in New Hampshire.
It is. It kind of is. I mean, COVID did a lot of things like that.
You know, but that's the way that in Texas they always kind of did it. You know, these barbecue places would open up at 11:00 in the morning, and they sell until 4 or 5 at night, and then when they're out of ribs, they're done. You know, we kind of tried that when we first opened, and it went over like a lead balloon. You know, because people would drive. You became a destination restaurant. Right. People would hear about it, and they'd drive. They're like, hey, we just drove an hour and a half. What do you mean you don't have ribs? Right. You know, and then they give you a freaking 1-star review because you ran out of ribs.
Oh, don't talk to me about reviews.
Yeah. So that was good. Now after COVID kind of gave us the ability to go, all right, we couldn't be open at all forever, you know, and then we were able to open up for takeout. And then when we opened back up, I said, you know what, let's just open up for dinner, you know, and so. Yeah. So now it's great. I found that it worked. It really helped us all the way around with so many.
It helps with labor too.
It helped with labor.
You know, all around.
That was the other thing. Already dressed, and
I would have, you know, because first off, I'd have to have 5 guys there to open up the kitchen, and now you know, a few hours later, the kitchen's ready to open. I really don't need all those guys there now.
Exactly.
But now, what am I going to do? Send them home after they worked for 3 hours? No, you're paying your staff for that whole time. And the same thing with the servers. The servers who wants to be freaking hospitable when you've been waiting on people hand and feet for 10 or 12 hours? And they would all want to do doubles, you know, we want to come in at 11 and I'd rather work 4 days a week from 12 to 11 than work 6 days a week for 4 hours or what have you.
Right.
We would close at 10 or 11, end up going out or whatever, you know, and
no.
Yeah.
No.
Half the time they would show up at, you know, they'd have supposed to be there at 10:30 in the morning with their sneakers in their hand and like their hair's wet, and they would go spend 45 minutes.
People don't believe us when we tell them that.
Yeah,
it's true.
Getting ready, you know, they're like, oh my God.
They're hungover.
Yeah, they're hungover. And then, you know, cars are pulling in at 8:00 at night, and they're like, oh, it's freaking customers, you know, like, you know, oh, I don't want to wait on these people. And so now it's, you know, now that we open up at 4, they show up and they're dressed and their makeup is on and they've had time to kind of get rid of their hangover a little bit. And they're happy to wait on customers for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
I think it gets a little iffy, and I understand it. That, you know, who wants to wait on somebody hand and fist for 12 hours? By the time you're just beat at that point, you know?
It's totally true. This episode is powered by Red Arrow Diner. All 4 locations officially open around the clock. Swing by Manchester, Nashua, Concord, or Londonderry whenever hunger hits. From pancakes at 2 a.m. to fries and gravy for breakfast, we've got your cravings covered. Red Arrow, New Hampshire's favorite 24-hour diner tradition. So let's get back to, because I asked you the question, but we kind of veered off, which is fine because I want to get to Rock and Roll Meatballs. walk somebody through Casey's if they've never been there? Like when they pull up and they walk in the door, what can they expect?
Sure. Well, when you're approaching the door, we have an old 1952, maybe it's a 1954 Chevy pickup truck out there. That inspiration came from a place down in Florida where my mom lives, Cody's, and every Cody's down there has this old, pickup truck. And so forever, I always wanted one, and I never had the $5,000 to just go buy a piece of junk pickup truck.
Park it. Just to park it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of throw it away and as a decoration,
It does run.
Yeah, I ended up one night. I don't know how it popped up, but it popped up on my eBay feed, and I just I kept going back and looking at it and fell in love with it. It was out in Iowa, I think.
None of the tires matched.
Yeah. 5 different tires on it. And, so I put in a bid that I didn't think would go through.
And it went
through. So
good.
Yeah. Then I had to call my partners into the room and go, hey,
look what I did.
We're going to take a drive to
just so you know, I bought a pickup truck out west. So that's out front. And then we have these barbecue. I found like 20 or 25 different barbecue songs that we pump out through the front area. So you hear that as you're kind of walking in. Then you walk into this.
You forgot about Benji's mural.
Oh yeah, we had a great local artist paint this huge mural on the side of the barn. Which
okay, so hold on. I thought that was you.
No,
you're mostly the
inside.
Artist. Okay, all right. Because I wanted to give credit to that too. So okay,
yeah.
All right.
Benji Day, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Benji painted the mural outside. So she painted the mural on the side of the truck, all on the truck and stuff like that. So, and then as you walk in is our main lobby, and to the left is the lounge, which is the room that we originally opened in the kitchen area. And if you walk straight out into the backyard is where our tiki bar is, which is a 2,500 square feet tiki bar that we call Key West Side.
It's awesome.
We're on because you really do not feel like you're in downtown.
You're on Second Street and totally.
In the summertime, we have live music 4 or 5 nights a week out there, and with the whole Jimmy Buffett vibe. And
do you still do Lisa Geyer every once in a while?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just saw her at Auburn Pits. I haven't seen her in so long.
She's so good.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Love her. She's become her and her boyfriend have become great friends with us.
Yeah.
They became our camping buddies for the last few years. So they have a camper and we have a camper.
Fun.
So we couple times this summer we try and get away and go play bocce somewhere. Yeah, so we do the live music out in the backyard, and then the upstairs, which used to be our dining room, about 6 years ago we converted into a tavern with 8 or 9 TVs, and we do a live open mic up there on Tuesday nights, which is fantastic, and on Wednesday.
That's our favorite place, other than the tiki bar in the summer. But yeah.
And then we have our lower level downstairs. We kind of went with a little bit of a camping theme, kind of. We had a little bar downstairs. Each room kind of has its own little bar.
Tell them what happened. We got that car, and we're like, "Why is the car here?" So,
well, my friend Brian Michael used to own Pizza 911, and he had seen.
Right. I'm like, what are you talking? Yes, gosh,
he had seen in Pulp Fiction, the cars that they were eating in the movie Pulp Fiction. So he did some research, and at
Epcot, there's a place that they sit in cars.
Oh yeah. So he had seen that, and he had a 1952 Plymouth sedan that he shipped down to North Carolina, and he had them cut this car in half. And I think he
got out of it. Yeah.
So they spent $20,000 on having this car cut in half and turned into this seat, which isn't even the best. It's not even a great seat. It's kind of uncomfortable and everything, but and all the headlights lit up and everything. And he had it over at Pizza 911. And when he was changing the format over there from Pizza 911 to the Fotilla, he called me up and he goes, "Kevin," do you want this car?
Come get it.
It's gonna. If I bring it home, my wife is gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Is the exact words.
Yeah. It's gonna be. He said it's gonna go in the.
As any wife would, right? Really?
Well, he has a basement full of cars, and so he said it's going to end up in my basement. And when I die, my wife's going to have to get a crane to get this car because it doesn't roll or anything. So. I said, I'm like, sure. I wasn't, I literally had to take an 8x8 foot section of my rear wall of the barn out. And then we had to get a flatbed to kind of crane this thing onto and then bring it over to the back parking lot. And we had to take out a 16-foot.
So it was a process to get it in.
But it's super cool. It's
very cool.
So that kind of started, and then it was like, well, why is this car in the middle of the dining room?
There's a general store now. There's a gas station down there.
Had been vacant for forever. I would go in there, and it was just too grandiose and big, and he's like, well, and I said, it's just not going to work for my concept. But I would lay awake in bed at night kind of thinking about it.
It's really perfect.
Yeah. And
I mean, it really, really is. It's funny you're saying it like that because, wow, yeah, because it's like perfect.
I built it. I went in and I said to him, I go, if you let me build this like 40-foot wall that separates the music hall side of things, which that's what makes it so cavernous. It was, if I had 20 people in there, it was kind of empty, because it holds 250 people, and so I said, if you let me build this wall, then I can kind of make this area a restaurant. And it had failed twice as a music venue because it's a tough gig, especially in Manchester. And it's a big venue that has a pro lights and pro sound. And so it's not like you can have these like random local bands come in and kind of set up. You need a sound engineer. You need a lighting guy. You need there's a lot to it. A lot of other people that you have to pay in addition to the entertainment,
Production.
So it's easy to lose your shirt, especially when you're giving these bands, $1,000 guarantee and they bring 20 people, and,
right.
So I said, I want to do, go in there and focus on the restaurant side of things. And I had seen this, another concept I stole, I guess.
This is on the record.
I had seen this place down south called Rock N Roll Sushi, where they had taken the Japanese vibe out of sushi and they, I'd gone there and they had TVs and they were playing all these 80 rock videos and stuff, and they served sushi and a lot of the sushi was kind of, they had gotten away a little bit from some of the, fish egg roe, and it's more, maybe they had steak and cheese sushi and they had some
different kind of,
but it was kind of allowed people to go have sushi without going out to a Japanese restaurant, and so that's where the rock and roll and the meatballs met, whereas, it wasn't originally going to be called Rock and Roll Meatballs. It was originally just going to be called Meatballs,
So I want to know what your feeling was when you knew, like when that popped into your head, Rock and Roll Meatballs, this is it. Like, how did you feel when you describe that moment?
It was exciting. That was the next step was to sit my partners down and say, hey, listen, I have this, idea.
What did they think?
They were all on board, fortunately. Yeah, they were. Even my partner Greg, who's he's not big on change, So they were all on board with it, and
wow.
They said
even myself, I'm like, Rock and Roll Meatballs, like just meatballs. I'm like, how?
I mean, we have
it's so cool though.
We have a lot of other things that people are kind of shocked when we come in. We have, and
that the meatball flight is the talk of the town.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
the meatball flight is awesome.
We have escargot,
and we had been been open for a month or so before we even added the meatball flight, but it became an obvious thing that because we started off. It was a lot of fun developing it. We would go in every day, and I would have a stack of recipes, and we had the whole bar just lined up with every possible condiment, and
felt like we were on a cooking show. Everybody had to go get ingredients. Everybody made their own meatballs.
I would hand everybody unlike barbecue, where you want to try something new, you got to wait a day to see if it worked out okay,
right?
And it costs you $200, and then it's awful, and you end up throwing it in the trash. So with meatballs, It takes 10 minutes to make some meatballs, and it takes another.
You can test them in no time.
Yeah, so I would give everybody a bowl, and there'd be 5 or 6 of us there, and all right, today we're working on vegetarian meatballs, and we would kind of work on, here's your recipe, and we would all make a batch, and then we would try them all and would zero in on it. So when we initially opened, we had 6 meatballs. We had a vegetarian meatball, our brisket and onion. We had our turkey and stuffing and cranberry, which we call our pilgrim balls, which everybody loves.
I love that one.
Then we had the chicken meatballs, and we had our regular Swedish meatballs and our traditional meatballs.
The appetizer, is it buffalo ones?
Yeah, we have the chicken buffalo.
Those are so good.
The appetizer, and those are actually made our chicken meatballs, but they're made like half the size of the regular meatballs, so they're more of a appetizer. And we ended up, after a week or 2, we got rid of the vegetarian meatballs because after 2 weeks, not one person had even ordered them.
That's always normal in the restaurant business. We know that.
And then they ask, "Oh, do you have meatballs?"
And then they'll ask after. It's like, no, they're gone.
You didn't come.
Yeah. So the concept, we have 80s videos playing on all the TV screens, which is it's so cool, very cool nostalgia trip for most people. It was great for us even when we were in there experimenting. And we started playing all these videos. There were nights where we didn't do anything for hours because we just sat there watching these, old Bon Jovi videos.
Everybody sings.
Yeah, everybody looks so young.
And a lot of your art is in there. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
It was like beer paraphernalia, and we're like, it all needs to go.
We both, when I first met Chris, she came over my house, and I had a lot of art there that I had painted of different rock stars and things like that.
Whoa. You painted?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you did that too.
Yeah.
Did I know that?
I don't know. A lot of the pictures that were at KC's were initially like Steven Tyler and Jim Morrison, and those were all paintings that I had done. I had never painted a day in my life, and there was this picture on the back of a magazine of Steven Tyler that I kept looking at, and I'm like,
does that piss you off?
No, because I'm way better at it.
Yeah, she blows me away now. When I first met her, she had never really painted us, she had and I kind of taught her how I did paintings. Now she does most of them. And quick.
Yeah, I have one of your artwork. It's like our brand new kitchen. Well, it's been almost 2 years now, but
the owl.
That is like everybody that actually we had people over yesterday. My son's getting married in less than 2 weeks. So we had the families over, and a couple people asked about that. They all do. They all think it's me because of the glasses.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it is fun because I did the purple with the
It's kind of fun. I'm like, no.
So the our main dining room was, when we moved in, all beer and sports memorabilia. So we kind of
pool tables.
Yeah. It's good because we were running out of space in our condo because I literally our stairwells and our upstairs and our living room is all our paintings, and
most of them at home are signed.
Most of the ones that
like
at home, that's
Puddles the Clown, Ace Frehley. Like we have a bunch of them. So
we like doing paintings of people that maybe we might be able to get signed. That's
3 foot. I'm like, hey. Want to see there? You want to sign it? Yeah.
So those we kept those at home, but they're we actually freed up a couple of hooks that we're working on replacing.
Ozzy.
Yeah.
I have an Ozzy coming.
Yeah, that'll be next.
Cool.
We won't get that one signed though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then another thing at Rock N Roll Meatballs that people love is Rosie the Road.
I was just going to say, walk us through Rock N Roll Meatballs and how you get your food exactly.
So I saw this, either came up in my Facebook feed or something like that, and I saw this food delivering robot, which I was super intrigued by, and the layout of Rock N Roll Meatballs kind of lends itself to it. Whereas it's open and there was enough space for them to come in, and you have to be able to map out the whole place with GPS and everything. And it's been great. We've gotten a couple of criticism.
People, I've seen them, and get old. Makes me so mad.
Like, it's giving up, somebody's job or something like that. And it doesn't, because we still have the servers take the food off. All it does, one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's happened to me so many times, is I'm sitting at a restaurant or I'm sitting at a diner or something like that, and I see my food
in the window, and it's sitting there. It happens in my diner all the time.
Yeah, dying in the window, and you're like, "Hey, I know that's my meal over there." And They're over there.
And Rosie gets it.
They're doing
Rosie
something like
delivers
that.
it.
So here, one of the first things for us is hot food hot, cold food cold, get it out of the kitchen, and it serves a couple of things. A, it stops our servers from having to go out back, carry these big trays with 5 or 6 meals on it on, porcelain plates that are heavy.
Yeah, totally.
And carry it out. And then they have no place to put this tray down. They got to go get a
I think the concept is amazing, and it just adds to the uniqueness of Rock N Roll Meatballs.
Yeah, so now the kitchen, as soon as they're ready with the food for A7, they load the food onto the tray. It's right when it's done. It goes into a heating lamp while they're preparing it all. They get all 5 dishes ready. Goes on. They hit A7 on the screen,
and boom,
and off it goes. It also keeps my servers out
in the dining room.
Out in the dining room, as opposed to going. Half the time, what you're like, geez, I want another coffee or I want another drink. Where's my server? And you can't find them anywhere. And that's because they've gone back in the kitchen and they've said, how's my hamburger coming for A7? Oh, it's going to be a minute or two, Okay. And now they camp out in the kitchen waiting. Right. So they don't go back out and come back in a minute.
Yeah. And I bet it probably also helps them play more as a team, right? Because they all kind of, if they're all out there when Rosie comes and if someone, right?
That's the thing.
I've seen that.
That's
so,
the thing. Yeah. When Rosie comes out, we want, that's the thing. Everybody pay attention to the robot and get to the table as fast as possible. And so it's been great. Not only have I found it to be very effective, in its job of what it does, which is bringing the food out to the people, but it's also been it's just anybody that's in there that posts anything about us on social media has done that. And fortunately our reviews have been off the charts.
They have.
Phenomenal. I mean, we bounce between 4.8 and 4.9 on Google. And I think we had 2, as you know.
There's always going to be, I mean, always. And they're always usually the same ones you notice all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously?
You've got to be, I bet you're a lot of fun at the party.
Right? Oh. So if somebody out there that's listening that hasn't been to either Casey's or Rock N Roll Meatballs, tell them why they need to come.
I think we try and be, we try and offer up a little bit of a different. I really try and focus on hospitality. Great staff at both places, and I think hospitality is job one for being in the restaurant business. I've always, we're inviting people in and we happen to serve them food and drinks while we're here. But the first step is making people feel welcome and comfortable, you know?
Totally.
And I think people will get over almost everything else if that is provided, you know what I mean? If that's job one is making people happy, then maybe they'll overlook the fact that the hamburger came out medium well instead of medium rare,
exactly.
or what have you.
And you know what? Sometimes that happens.
It's tough. I say to people all the time, it's especially I see a lot of these, places, other restaurants or what have you that might be open 4 days a week, and the owner is in there, and every meal. I mean, for the first 3 years I was open, every meal that went out that door came off of my fingertips. I cooked them all. I was there. I couldn't get sick. I didn't.
Right.
I learned that in order for my business to grow, I couldn't be standing over the grill for 70 hours a week. I needed to. For those first 3 years, I was throwing myself the long ball and running to the other end of the field and catching it, And there came a point where I said, "Okay, I need you guys down the field to catch this ball." I kind of changed my mode from being a chef to saying I'm going to open a marketing business, and I'm going to my one client is Casey's Rib Shack, and I'm going to work on marketing our business. Now we have, over 20,000 followers on Facebook, which is, amazing to be able to tap into that resource.
We have 40
It's amazing how
employees. Yeah.
valuable it is. Yes. But like I said, it is easy when you have 50 employees that all it takes is one of them to be having a bad day. And
make them sit on the bench.
But it's you don't know whether they're having a bad day, and if you have somebody back in the kitchen who's just kind of,
having a bad day,
and he doesn't care and he just wants to get his paycheck and get out of there, it can be,
I do think most people understand that. And we'll go back and give it another try and understand.